The Galactic Council's grand arena was packed to the rafters, which was saying something considering the rafters were approximately 3 kilometers high. Beings from 743 different species had gathered for what was being billed as the ultimate survivor's trial, and the betting pools had already exceeded the gross domestic product of 12 minor planetary systems. Commander Zixthar of the Velkarin Empire stood at the announcement podium. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. All 4 of his arms spread wide in a gesture that his species considered welcoming, but that most humans found vaguely threatening. His translator implant hummed as he addressed the crowd. Beings of the galactic community, welcome to the trial of endurance. Today, we will finally settle the question that has plagued our civilizations for millennia. Which species truly deserves the title of ultimate survivor? The crowd erupted in cheers, roars, chittering sounds, and what might have been interpretive dance from Sector 7. We have selected candidates from the most fearsome warrior races in known space. Zixthar continued, warming to his subject. The Krathian berserkers, who can survive in the vacuum of space for up to 6 hours. The Morphelian commandos, whose exoskeletons can withstand direct plasma fire. The Velkarin elite guard, who need no introduction because we are clearly the best. Modest, these Velkarin. And finally, Zixthar paused dramatically, as a sort of cosmic joke suggested by the betting committee who thought it would be funny, we have a human. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some laughed. Others made sounds that their translators rendered as confused sympathy. One species that communicated entirely through bioluminescence flickered in what might have been second-hand embarrassment. Down in the preparation chamber, Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Bex Morrison was doing jumping jacks and absolutely not caring about the contempt radiating from the alien competitors around her. At 5'6", with brown hair pulled back in a practical braid and wearing standard Earth Forces utility gear, she looked positively underwhelming next to the 3-meter-tall Krathian warrior who was busy bench-pressing what appeared to be a small shuttlecraft. "Hey, big guy," Bex called over cheerfully. "You gonna put that down before the trial starts, or are you planning to bring it with you? Because I gotta tell you, cardio is not gonna be your friend if you're lugging that around." The Krathian, whose name was something unpronounceable that roughly translated to crusher of bones and dreams, stared at her with all 6 of his eyes. "Human, you do not belong here. This trial will break you within the first hour. The verdant hell of Kashyyyk Prime has destroyed the minds of seasoned warriors. You should withdraw now and save yourself the humiliation." Kashyyyk Prime? Bex's eyebrows shot up. Someone's been watching too much Earth media. Did you guys seriously name the trial Planet after a Wookiee homeworld? That's adorable. Do you also have a planet called Tatooine? Please tell me you have a Tatooine. The Morphelian commando, whose crystalline exoskeleton refracted light in unsettling patterns, clicked something that the translator rendered as disdainful laughter. The human makes jokes because she does not understand fear. The jungle of Kashyyyk Prime is no fiction. It contains predators that have evolved for 60 million years in an environment with 3 times Earth's gravity. The canopy is so dense that some species have evolved without ever seeing the ground. Temperatures swing from 50 degrees at night to 60 degrees during the day. Celsius or Fahrenheit? Bex asked innocently. What? Never mind. So we're talking about 120 to 140 Fahrenheit? That's cute. Have you guys ever been to Arizona in July? Because let me tell you about Arizona in July. The Velkarin representative, an officer named Thax, who made Zixthar look positively cuddly by comparison, slithered closer. The Velkarin moved like snakes with too many bones and an attitude problem. The human attempts to hide her terror with humor. It is pathetic. When the trials begin, you will be the first to activate your emergency beacon. My species has studied your kind extensively. You are weak, slow, and fragile. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. You are, in every measurable way, inferior. Bex tilted her head thoughtfully. Huh. Studied us extensively, you say? So you know about the persistence hunting thing, right? The sweating thing? The we literally used to chase prey until it died of exhaustion thing? The whole we're one of the only species that can run marathons in the heat thing? Primitive adaptations, irrelevant to modern warfare and survival. Cool. Hey, quick question. What's your species' homeworld gravity? Thax drew himself up proudly. 0.87 standard G. We evolved in a light gravity environment, which allowed us to develop superior height and reach. Right. And you said Kashyyyk Prime is 3 times Earth gravity? Yes. And Earth is 1.0 standard G. Thax's translator implant hummed with something that might have been irritation. Your mathematics are correct, but irrelevant. Oh, I'm sure it's fine, Bex said brightly. I'm sure you'll do great out there with your superior height in an environment with gravity almost 4 times what you're used to. Really, no notes. This is going to go fantastic for you. Before Thax could respond with what would probably have been a very dignified threat, the announcement system crackled to life. Commander Zixthar's voice boomed through the chamber. Contestants, prepare for transport. The trial begins in 10 minutes. Remember, the rules are simple. Survive in the jungle for 72 hours. You may use any skills or tools from your standard military kit. You may not harm other contestants directly. The one who endures with the most dignity and the least distress will be declared the winner. Activating your emergency beacon means immediate disqualification and, let's be honest, eternal shame for your entire species. No pressure, though. The Krathian cracked his knuckles, which produced a sound like rocks in a cement mixer. 72 hours. I will spend them hunting and feasting. This will be a vacation. The Morphelian's exoskeleton shifted through several colors that probably meant something intimidating. I require no sustenance for a week. I will simply find a secure location and wait. Simple. Thax coiled into what might have been a confident posture. The Velkarin are apex strategists. I have already calculated 17 optimal survival positions within the jungle. I will succeed through superior intellect. They all looked at Bex expectantly. She was checking her backpack, seemingly oblivious to their posturing. Human, the Krathian rumbled. Have you nothing to say? No boasts, no strategies? Bex looked up and smiled. Oh, me? I'm just going to find a tree. A tree? Yeah, you know. Tall, woody plant. Branches, leaves. I'm going to climb up, build a little shelter, and get a good night's sleep. Maybe make some tea if I can collect rainwater. Should be nice. The 3 alien warriors exchanged glances that, across their different species, all managed to convey the same sentiment. This human is insane. The transport was mercifully brief, which was good because the Morphelian spent the entire journey explaining in excruciating detail exactly how the Kashyyyk Prime jungle would kill them. Apparently, there were acid-spitting plants, venomous insects the size of dinner plates, predators that hunted by echolocation, and something called a screaming maw that was best left undescribed in polite company. Sounds lively, Bex had commented, which earned her more of those concerned looks. The drop pod slammed into the jungle canopy with all the grace of a drunk meteorite. Bex's pod crashed through approximately 40 meters of branches, vines, and what she really hoped weren't giant spider webs before coming to a halt wedged between two massive tree trunks. She popped the hatch and immediately understood why the Galactic Council had nicknamed this place the hell that makes other hells feel inadequate. The humidity hit her like a wet towel to the face. The temperature was somewhere in the Satan sauna range. The air itself seemed to have weight, pressing down with the planet's crushing gravity. Every surface was covered in something that either wanted to eat you, poison you, or both. The sounds of the jungle were a cacophony of screeches, roars, and what might have been ominous chanting but was probably just territorial birds. "Well," Bex muttered, pulling herself out of the pod with an effort, "isn't this delightful?" The gravity was no joke. Everything felt like it weighed 3 times normal, including her body. Just standing upright required genuine effort. She could feel her leg muscles burning already. Somewhere in the jungle below, she heard a tremendous roar, followed by what sounded like trees being demolished. That would be the Krathian, probably wrestling something large and toothy. Good for him. A crystalline chime echoed from the east. The Morphelian, finding his waiting spot presumably. And somewhere, she was sure, Thax was slithering toward one of his 17 calculated safe zones, confident in his superior Velkarin intellect. Bex looked around at the massive trees surrounding her pod. Each one was easily 10 meters in diameter with bark that looked like it could stop small arms fire. The canopy above was so dense that only occasional spears of sunlight made it through, creating a twilight world of green shadows. "Right then," she said to no one in particular, "let's do this the human way." She pulled out her multi-tool, her synthetic rope, and her emergency shelter kit. Then she looked up at the massive tree her pod had wedged against and started planning. 3 hours later, as the jungle sun began its descent toward evening, Bex was 60 meters up in the canopy, lying in a hammock she'd strung between 2 sturdy branches. She'd used her shelter kit to create a rain-proof roof above her, and had even managed to rig up a simple water collection system using her emergency poncho. Her tactical tablet, which was monitoring the other contestants' biometric data because the Galactic Council loved their reality show drama, made for interesting reading. The Krathian's heart rate had been elevated for 2 hours straight. Current status: wrestling something the scanner identified as a mega serpent. Estimated survival probability: 73%. Dignity rating: high, but dropping as the fight continued. The Morphelian had found a cave and was currently in standby mode. Heart rate minimal, no movement. Estimated survival probability: 89%. Dignity rating: medium due to complete inactivity. Thax's readings were more concerning. The Velkarin's core temperature was elevated, respiration was labored, and his movement pattern suggested he was having significant difficulty with the gravity. He'd made it to one of his calculated safe zones, but hadn't moved in over an hour. Estimated survival probability: 61% and dropping. Dignity rating: low and falling. Bex took a sip from her water bottle and looked out over the canopy. From up here, the view was actually beautiful. The alien sun painted the sky in shades of purple and orange that Earth's sunset could never quite match. Strange birds, or bird-like things, wheeled in the distance. The air up here was marginally cooler and definitely less humid. She pulled out an MRE, heated it up with her chemical heater, and had herself a pleasant dinner while the jungle below tried to kill everything in it. "This is nice," she said aloud, because talking to yourself in hostile alien jungles was definitely a sign of excellent mental health. Peaceful even. No briefings, no drills, No Sergeant Morrison yelling at me for my creative interpretation of the regulations. Just me, a tree, and approximately 7 million things that want to eat me but can't reach me up here. Her tablet pinged. The Krathian had defeated the mega serpent. His heart rate was slowly returning to normal, but his energy expenditure had been enormous. He'd need food soon, which meant more hunting, which meant more energy expenditure. The tablet's AI was already calculating how long he could maintain this pace. Estimate: 36 hours before exhaustion forced him to slow down. As darkness fell, the jungle transformed. The daytime predators gave way to nighttime horrors. Bex could hear them moving through the darkness below, clicks, rustles, the occasional scream that cut off too abruptly to be anything good. She checked her shelter one more time, made sure she was properly secured in her hammock, and settled in for the night. And this is where the real genius of Bex's strategy became apparent. See? All the other contestants were down in the jungle, in the mud and the danger, constantly alert for threats. They couldn't truly rest. Every sound might be a predator. Every moment required vigilance. But Bex? Bex was 60 meters up, in a tree that nothing in the jungle seemed interested in climbing. She was dry, relatively comfortable, and completely out of reach of the ground-based threats that made up 90% of the jungle's danger. She slept like a baby. A baby in a hostile, alien death jungle, granted, but still. Day 2 began with Bex waking up to the sound of morning rain pattering on her shelter. She checked her water collection system and found it had gathered almost 2 liters overnight. Excellent. Her tablet showed significant overnight developments. The Krathian had not slept. His species didn't technically require sleep, but they did need rest periods. He'd spent the entire night on alert, burning through his energy reserves, fighting off nocturnal predators. Current status: exhausted but proud. Estimated survival: 58 hours remaining before mandatory rest period. The Morphelian was still in his cave, still in standby mode. Boring but effective. No change in status. Thax had activated his emergency beacon at 3 in the morning. Bex sat up so fast she nearly fell out of her hammock. Wait, what? She pulled up the detailed logs. Apparently, the Velkaran had experienced something the medical sensors described as catastrophic gravity-induced circulatory failure. In simpler terms, his body just couldn't handle operating in 3 times his native gravity for extended periods. He'd made it 19 hours before his cardiovascular system had said absolutely not and started shutting down non-essential functions. The emergency beacon had brought a medical transport within minutes. Thax was currently in stable condition on a hospital ship and facing an eternity of his fellow Velkaran, asking him exactly what had gone wrong with his 17 calculated safe zones. Huh, Bex said, munching on a breakfast bar. And they said mathematics were irrelevant. She spent day 2 improving her camp. She rigged up a better water filtration system using materials from her kit. She found some vine-like plants that, according to her scanner, were non-toxic and actually edible, so she added those to her supplies. She even managed to fashion a simple fishing line and caught something from a small pool of collected rainwater on a nearby branch. The something turned out to be about 70% teeth and 30% attitude, but it was technically protein. The view from her perch remained spectacular. She could see for kilometers across the canopy, watching weather systems roll in, observing the alien wildlife going about its daily business of trying to murder each other. It was, she reflected, probably the most peaceful she'd been in months. Her tablet pinged with an update. The Krathian had just activated his emergency beacon. Bex pulled up the details with interest. The Krathian had lasted 41 hours, which was impressive. But constant combat in high gravity with no rest had finally taken its toll. He'd defeated a screaming maw, which turned out to be exactly as unpleasant as advertised. But the battle had left him with significant injuries and complete energy depletion. Rather than face slow degradation, he'd chosen to withdraw with dignity. The medical report noted that he'd killed 17 different predators during his time in the jungle and had single-handedly cleared a 200-meter radius of hostile fauna. The dignity rating was actually quite high. He'd gone down fighting, which his people respected. That left Bex and the Morphelian. "Come on, Crystal Buddy," Bex muttered, watching her tablet. "You can do it. Stay in that cave. Be boring. I believe in you." The Morphelian's readings remained steady. The contestant was in full hibernation mode, his crystalline body requiring almost no energy in standby. He could theoretically last for weeks like this. Day 2 passed peacefully. Bex read a book on her tablet, practiced some knot tying, did some basic calisthenics to keep her muscles from atrophying in the high gravity, and generally had a nice relaxing time. That evening, she watched the sunset again and had to admit, she was kind of enjoying herself. No one was shooting at her. No one was demanding reports. No one was questioning her decisions or suggesting she needed to be more serious about her career. Just her, a tree, and the blessed absence of bureaucracy. Day 3 began with drama. The Morphelian's readings had changed overnight. His cave, it turned out, was also home to a colony of something the scanner identified as boar worms. These delightful creatures had spent the previous evening trying to eat through the Morphelian's crystalline exoskeleton. They hadn't succeeded, but they had made sleeping impossible. The Morphelian had been forced to leave his secure location and was now moving through the jungle, searching for a new spot. This was a problem because the Morphelian was, as it turned out, not particularly good at jungle navigation. His species had evolved in crystalline cave systems on a low-gravity moon. Dense vegetation and high gravity were not his friends. Bex watched his progress on her tablet with growing concern and amusement. The Morphelian kept getting tangled in vines, kept triggering territorial displays from various predators, and generally seemed to be having the worst time. At hour 63, 41 hours after Bex had settled into her tree, the Morphelian activated his emergency beacon. The reason, according to the medical transport team, was acute psychological distress brought on by environmental incompatibility and recent discovery that several boar worms had actually made it inside his exoskeleton and were currently nesting in non-vital areas. Bex winced. That was just unfortunate. Her tablet pinged with an official notification. "Congratulations, Lieutenant Commander Morrison. You are the last remaining contestant. Please remain in position until recovery team arrives. Estimated time, 30 minutes. Victory is yours." Bex looked around her little tree camp, her comfortable hammock, her water collection system, her neat arrangement of supplies, the beautiful view across the alien canopy. "Huh," she said. "That's nice." 30 minutes later, a Galactic Council recovery shuttle pulled up alongside her tree. The pilot, a four-armed Velcarin who was definitely not happy about the assignment, stared at Bex's setup with something approaching disbelief. "You've been up here the entire time?" the pilot asked. "Yep. Just sitting in a tree. Sitting, sleeping, eating, reading, little bit of fishing. You know, the usual survival stuff. The Krathian fought 17 predators. I heard. Sounds exhausting. The Morphelian maintained a 2-day hibernation. That's one way to do it. And you just climbed a tree. Bex gathered her gear with a smile. Look, I don't know how to explain this in a way that doesn't sound condescending, but humans spent about 3 million years figuring out how to not die in horrible environments. We got pretty good at it. And one of the very first things we learned was, if something wants to eat you, get off the ground. Predators are lazy. They don't like to climb. So you climb. You get up high, you stay dry, you conserve energy, and you let everything else tire itself out trying to kill each other. But the glory, the combat, the survival. It's called a survival trial, not a combat trial. Nobody said I had to fight anything. They said I had to survive with dignity. Well, I survived, and I did it while getting a solid 8 hours of sleep each night. I'd say that's pretty dignified. The pilot had no response to that. Back at the Grand Arena, the reception was mixed. The Krathian, recovered from his injuries, approached Bex with what might have been respect. "Human Bex," he rumbled, "I underestimated your kind. You showed wisdom where I showed only strength. This is humbling. Hey, you lasted 41 hours fighting everything that moved. That's genuinely impressive. Your people should be proud." The Krathian nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but you lasted 72 hours without fighting at all. That is a different kind of strength. I have learned something today." The Morphelian, who was still having boar worms removed by medical staff, declined to comment, but sent a message that translated roughly to, "Well played, you infuriating mammal." Thax, the Velkarin officer, was nowhere to be seen. Rumor had it he'd been reassigned to a desk job on a space station where he would never have to face variable gravity again. Commander Zixthar, presiding over the awards ceremony, looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. The betting pools had not favored the human. The Galactic Council had lost a lot of money today. "Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Morrison," he announced with clear reluctance. "By the rules of the trial, you are declared the victor. You have survived the verdant hell of Kashyyyk Prime with, I am forced to admit, remarkable dignity and minimal distress. Do you have any words for the assembled beings?" Beck stepped up to the podium, looked out at the thousands of alien faces staring at her, and grinned. "Yeah, I got words. Y'all ever hear about persistence hunting? See, back on Earth, before we had weapons or tools or anything fancy, we had this neat trick. We'd find an antelope or whatever, and we'd just follow it. Not even chase it, really, just follow. The antelope would sprint away, we'd jog after it. It would rest, we'd keep coming. It would sprint again, we'd keep jogging. We'd do this for hours, sometimes days, in the African heat, until the antelope literally died of exhaustion, and we'd have lunch." She let that sink in for a moment. "Now, I'm not saying we're the scariest species in the galaxy. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the most heavily armored. But we are absolutely, without question, the most annoyingly persistent. We will outlast you. We will outstubborn you. And when you're tired and hurt and ready to give up, we'll be sitting in a tree somewhere, well-rested and hydrated, reading a book and waiting for you to realize that maybe, just maybe, trying to outsurvive a human is a losing proposition." She paused, surveying the crowd. "Also, we invented camping. We literally do this for fun, just so you know." The arena was silent for a long moment. Then, from somewhere in the back, a single being started a slow clap. Then another joined in, then more. It wasn't universal approval. Plenty of species were still processing the implications of being outsurvived by a mammal who'd spent 3 days reading in a tree. But it was something. Later, at the mandatory post-trial reception, where various species were aggressively not talking to each other while consuming exotic foods. The Krathian approached Bex again. "Human Bex," he said quietly. "A question, if I may." "Shoot." "Did you truly feel no fear in that jungle?" Bex considered the question seriously. "Oh, I was terrified. That place was objectively horrifying. Everything wanted to kill me, the gravity was crushing, and I'm pretty sure I saw something with 14 legs and a face like a nightmare on the second day." "Then how did you seem so calm?" "Because being scared and being stupid are two different things." "Yeah, I was scared. So I made rational decisions based on that fear. I got off the ground, I conserved energy, I stayed dry, I got sleep. Fear's just information, you know? It tells you something's dangerous. What you do with that information is what matters." The Krathian was quiet for a moment. "My people believe that courage means confronting fear with direct action. The true warriors meet danger face to face. And my people believe that the warrior who runs away lives to fight another day. Different philosophies, same goal: stay alive." "Perhaps," the Krathian said thoughtfully. "Perhaps we have much to learn from humans. And we've got stuff to learn from you guys. I mean, you fought a screaming maw hand to hand and won. That's genuinely incredible. I wouldn't have lasted 10 seconds in a direct fight with half the things you killed. But you never had to fight them." "Exactly. Different strategies, different strengths. That's the thing about intelligence. It gives you options beyond hit it until it stops moving." The Krathian made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are a strange species, human. Weak but strong. Fearful but brave. Small but large in ways I am still learning to measure." "We're a work in progress," Bex admitted. "But we're pretty good at the whole not dying thing. Had to be. Our planet spent millions of years trying to kill us. We got good at saying no thanks to extinction. As the reception wound down and beings began departing to their respective ships and stations, Bex found herself alone on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. Her communicator pinged. Message from Earth Forces Command. "Morrison. Saw the trial. Well done. Knew the tree thing would work. That's why we picked you. Come home, there's paperwork. Lots of paperwork. You're gonna hate it. Rodriguez." Bex smiled. Yeah, she probably would hate it. But at least there wouldn't be screaming maws in the filing room. Probably. She took one last look at the stars, at the vast alien galaxy full of species that were still learning what humans could do, and felt a quiet satisfaction. They'd called it a trial. They'd said the jungle breaks all camps. But they'd forgotten something important. Humans don't break. They adapt. They improvise. They climb trees and make tea and read books, while the rest of the universe exhausts itself trying to prove something. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person who survives isn't the one who fights the hardest. It's the one who knows when to climb a tree and wait for everyone else to figure out that survival isn't about being the toughest. It's about being the most stubborn. And humans? Humans wrote the book on stubborn. Then they climbed a tree and read it while everyone else was busy trying to prove they didn't need books. Bex headed for her transport, already planning her report. Command would want details, analysis, recommendations for future trials. She'd give them all that. But she'd also recommend they add a line to the human entry in the Galactic Species Database. Humans. Persistence predators who evolved to outlast everything. Approach with caution. Do not challenge to endurance trials. They will win by doing something boring and infuriating, and you will never understand how they made it look so easy. Also, they camp for fun. They are clearly not entirely sane. Update your strategies accordingly. Yeah, that seemed about right. The transport lifted off, carrying her away from the grand arena and back toward human space. Behind her, the Galactic Council was probably already planning new trials, new tests, new ways to measure which species was truly supreme. Let them plan, Bex thought. Let them test. Humans would just keep doing what humans do best. Surviving. One stubborn, frustrating, tree-climbing day at a time. And maybe that was the real lesson here. Maybe that's what made humanity scary, not that they were strong or fast or particularly dangerous in a fight, but that they just wouldn't quit, ever. No matter what the galaxy threw at them, humans would adapt, endure, and probably make jokes about it afterward. That wasn't just survival. That was humanity. And the galaxy was slowly, reluctantly, learning to respect that. One trial at a time.